The second richest man in the world just made a huge Bitcoin move. This $1.9 trillion company is now being forced to vote on whether or not to put Bitcoin on its balance sheet. All of this came 2 days before Microsoft conducts the vote on putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet, which we'll get to the results of that in a minute. But on top of all this, it's not the first time this billionaire founder has been connected to Bitcoin. So is this the start of companies starting to FOMO into Bitcoin? And is this a start of trend that cannot be stopped? Well, of course, we're talking about Amazon and Jeff Bezos. Good old Jeffy B here is being forced by his shareholders to assess to determine if adding Bitcoin to the company's treasury is the best long-term interest of shareholders. Now, I've alluded to it. The Amazon founder is Jeff Bezos. He's the second richest man in the world. We've had Elon, who, of course, has been connected to Bitcoin at certain points in time, where he actually accepted Bitcoin for Tesla purchases at one point. I think since then they have stopped doing that. But it is interesting that these top two, the richest two people in the world, are now looking at Bitcoin as a potential for their companies, not only accepting it as payment, but utilizing it as a reserve asset on their company's balance sheet. Now, I alluded to it at the beginning. This is coming after, Microsoft's vote, but this is all because of MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor. So the dawn of Bitcoin, Michael Saylor has been utilizing Bitcoin as a strategic reserve since 2021. And so because of that, they've been their reserves have now passed giants like IBM and Nike. Their strategy, which began in 2020, not 2021, has grown their balance sheet to 13.4 in unrealized gains simply because of this strategy. So all of this on because MicroStrategy is seeing massive amounts of success. They actually just got announced that they're going to potentially join the NASDAQ 100, which is the top 100 non-banking stocks. And it's been essentially a zombie company just floating around for quite some time. So shareholders in Amazon are begging that the board looks at this as a potential option. So how big is Amazon? How big are these corporations really diving into Bitcoin? Well, we mentioned Microsoft, which we'll get into here in a second. Microsoft is the third biggest company by market cap, where Amazon is the fifth here with the $1.9 trillion market cap. So all of these companies are essentially being linked to Bitcoin. Apple is even quietly being named as a potential to start to move towards Bitcoin and the crypto industry to a lesser extent. But you might be asking yourself, Jeff Bezos, how has he been linked to Bitcoin previously? Well, I think it's not only because of how competitive these rich people are. They want to see what other billionaires are doing. They want to be growing their wealth more significantly than anybody else. But also, him and his wife, or a girlfriend now, have been photoed on Michael Saylor's yacht. So the Giga Chad himself is not only orange pilling people across the globe, he's orange pilling some of the biggest corporation founders of all time. So some of the richest people in the world are now being orange pilled by Michael Saylor, and he's having a tremendous impact on everything that is going on here globally. And I alluded to it here earlier, right? So if we look at these top market cap companies, number one here is Apple, right? They've been dipping their toe into the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, landscape here as well. Now, we're going to hope that all these companies avoid the shitcoining and just stay to Bitcoin only. But, why is this so important? Why is this so drastic? Well, if you look at these market caps, these are the size of some of the smaller nations' GDPs across the globe. And Apple obviously is one of the largest with the access of, millions of people, potentially even, millions of people who all have Apple iPhones in their phones. So they've been looking at potentially integrating Bitcoin and crypto while be enable Apple Pay to purchase Bitcoin here seamlessly. Soon, I think the next step would be potentially to utilize Apple Pay to pay in Bitcoin, but that's neither here nor there. That's a development that we could see potentially down the line. What we're really getting back to the story here of Amazon and how big this really is, how big Jeff Bezos' impact on Bitcoin could really be, right? Because, like I said, he's the second richest person in the world. So he also knows very rich people. He's got this billionaires club, and then all these people are really just becoming interested into Bitcoin. They've seen, him mingling with Michael Saylor. They see him liquidating a bunch of Amazon stock, $8.5 billion worth of Amazon stock. So, would you think that he would be sitting on cash? Most likely not. So, Bitcoin's price pump is hinting at some billionaire FOMO. And with all of this, he could be the potential of being Mr. 100 as well, who is just the person buying up a lot of Bitcoin. That's one theory that's being floated around. But irregardless, Bitcoin is being tossed around in major corporations now for the potential being putting as a reserve asset, right? So I think that this is a major monumental turn that we have not seen before. We're seeing not only people considering utilizing Bitcoin on a day-to-day basis, but businesses considering using Bitcoin as a reserve asset to help with their growing. And shareholders are demanding they have this conversation, demanding that they look at this because of the success that they've seen from MicroStrategy. Now, let's line out a little bit more as to, the interesting kind of connection we're seeing to Michael Saylor, the well-known Bitcoin bull, and Jeff Bezos, where he's been very interested in Bitcoin. And it's easy to imagine that Bitcoin was at least a topic of conversation given MicroStrategy's recent success and thanks to its massive Bitcoin holdings. So there is a speculation here that last time Bitcoin hit 60,000, Do Kwon was buying with fake Ponzi casts. This time, Jeff Bezos is buying with money he found his couch on the yacht, meaning there could be a crypto analyst which has seen a transaction of 26,000 Bitcoin with 51K each, where Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg would be the only person that would be able to afford this just personally outside of a sovereign wealth fund. But this is all pointing to massive amounts of potential Bitcoin buys, which would mean Jeff Bezos could potentially be extremely bullish on Bitcoin, which I would be surprised to see, an unfavorable result as we saw in Microsoft. So, I alluded to it at the beginning. Microsoft had the vote on Tuesday. We're recording this on Wednesday. So, yesterday, Microsoft had the vote as to whether or not to put Bitcoin on its balance sheet. In turn, it voted no, right? So, it's unfortunate. Bitcoin does not need Microsoft, but they also, had Michael Saylor pitch them. They gave him a very limited time, less than 5 minutes. I believe he went through something like 38 slides in in less than 5 minutes. So he was absolutely flying through this. But they voted against the proposal to include Bitcoin in their financial reserves, following guidance from the board of directors to reject the measure. Now, why might a board reject this offer? Well, they would have to say then eventually that Microsoft would not be able to innovate and grow their stock exponentially because MicroStrategy, quite frankly, has not really done much of innovation, except for their Bitcoin flywheel that they've implemented. And I have another live stream on MicroStrategy. If you want to go check that out, it's on the page. So feel free to click on that directly after this one. But Amazon or Microsoft, excuse me, is looking at this as they can innovate, they have a bigger market cap, they can continue to grow and bring more products to the marketplace. While MicroStrategy, one trick pony, they have a very good trick in that, but then also adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet was a big reason to their success. Now, Microsoft feels like they're a little bit different of a company, and they are, are they and they've voted against potentially adding Bitcoin to its reserve. And many have argued that adding Bitcoin could be a safeguard against inflation. They would be alongside Tesla, MicroStrategy, who have embraced this. And Michael Saylor, like we said, has encouraged Microsoft to do so. Unfortunately, they didn't really see Michael Saylor's side. But Amazon shareholders are, seeing what's going on at MicroStrategy and the massive amounts of growth. So they're urging for at least a 5% allocation of their assets to Bitcoin. Now, I am more bullish on Amazon potentially bringing Bitcoin onto the balance sheet opposed to Microsoft. And the reasoning for that is Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos has been, like I said, pictured with Michael Saylor, has gone to dinner with Michael Saylor, has hung out with him, is more along the lines of tech innovation. Whereas Microsoft, Bill Gates, that board, they've been at the forefront of innovation for a while, but it seems like they've just kind of swayed from it at this point. Similarly with Apple, I mean, since Steve Jobs has passed away, what real innovation have we really seen from Apple? We haven't seen too much, right? I mean, the iPhone looks exactly the same. Maybe we've gotten AirPods. That's about it. But Amazon seems to be one of those companies that seems to be pushing forward, and Jeff Bezos seems to be one of those guys always looking for the next big thing. So I would not be surprised if Amazon, passes this vote. It becomes something more than this 5% allocation that they're looking for. But the Microsoft idea was nixed despite some billionaires' plea, right? So a lot of people were looking at that to, do just 1 to 5% and Microsoft, and it seemed like a no-brainer to add trillions to the enterprise value, and it would become a market leader. But in the end, Microsoft's board, for some reason, is extremely bearish when it comes to Bitcoin and has decided to not implement Bitcoin strategy for them. So on the flip side of things, like, I don't understand really how you could be bearish with Bitcoin because, looking at just, let's see, the year to date, we have Bitcoin up over 140%. I know it's more than 5 years. Or yeah, 5 years is longer than the way that MicroStrategy has implemented their policy. I believe that their Bitcoin policy started in March or so. So Bitcoin price was about $5,000, or maybe maybe a little bit higher when MicroStrategy started to implement their Bitcoin policy. And now we're sitting well over $100,000. So we're seeing a massive amounts of price appreciation, and it's all helping add to that Bitcoin flywheel where MicroStrategy is issuing debt, and using that debt to buy Bitcoin. And then, you have the never ending flywheel. It seemed to be successful for MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor, seeing its price or its stock price give tremendous value to its shareholders. And so Amazon is urging its board to do the same so the shareholders can be happy. And if the shareholders are happy, more people are buying the stock, and it starts the never ending wheel. Now, not quite sure why Amazon would, go against that, because, it is just advantageous. And you had billionaires that are multiple billionaires that are holding the Microsoft stock. You had them pleading to them, saying it was a no-brainer. You should do this. He made his claims loud and clear. You can't afford to miss. He painted a dazzling picture, which could be looked at charts and bold claims of cash flows and buybacks. Yet the board, for some reason, was unnecessary, and they've got everything under control. Now, we'll see how this plays out for him. And, as I say in that movie, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it plays out, because I don't necessarily see anybody going against Bitcoin to be successful in the future because of the value proposition that Bitcoin offers and everything along those lines. So I'm looking for Amazon and other giant corporations across the globe to start to add Bitcoin as a reserve to their balance sheet, and to grow further from that, and continue to add to their shareholders value of the stock. So if this is your first time here, I appreciate you coming in. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, and we'll see you all at the next one.